Well, Navalny's mysterious death in an Arctic prison continues to stoke global controversy, including, of course, here in the U.S., where some notable conservatives have declined to condemn what is widely being called a political assassination. Former President Trump instead comparing himself to Navalny yesterday, saying his own legal troubles are tantamount to political persecution. Joining us now, Carol Leonnig, Washington Post national investigative reporter and MSNBC contributor. Joe Biden, Nikki Haley, many others have harshly criticized Trump for at least not condemning Navalny's death, let alone saying anything about Putin. As your paper points out, avoiding this intersection of Navalny and Vladimir Putin, though, is something Donald Trump has consistently avoided, right? Including when he was president.
Absolutely, Chris. I can think of a few examples right off the bat. One that sticks out was when our ally, the British government, recognized that there had been an attempted assassination with Novichok on a former KGB spy, that Putin had taken umbrage at his defection and had wanted for a long time to, quote unquote, get him. And the attempted assassination of that spy on British soil really offended our ally. Like, how could this have happened? How can this happen on our ground, that the Russian government decides to send in a special ops force to kill someone who's living here? They looked to the United States for support, and they did not find it in Donald Trump, who did nothing to condemn that action against our ally and on their soil. And in this case, what I find so fascinating is that, President Trump wakes up every morning, former President Trump wakes up every morning thinking about the news cycle, right? He did that to great effect when he was president. And he wakes up and sees that the news is all about Navalny, and he finds a way to connect himself to that news, as unpleasant the connection may be to critics of Putin and people who are concerned about the likelihood that Navalny was assassinated on his orders. So Donald Trump, again, sort of inserting himself into the news by saying, yeah, this guy's death is a lot like my political persecution, which is offensive probably to anybody who's related to Navalny and cares about his cause.
And Democrats would argue, and I think any observer would argue watching this, you couldn't get two people more apart who are running for president than Joe Biden and Donald Trump are on this. President Biden gave that forceful speech from the White House after Navalny's death, hailing him as a hero, very bluntly blaming Putin, tying all that directly to the necessity for Ukraine aid. Look, you've written, as we often talk about, multiple books on former President Trump. What's his play with Vladimir Putin, and what is his success in convincing his supporters that he's on the right side of this?
Chris, I find that question a really good one, but also really hard to answer, because there's never been a sort of guiding principle with Donald Trump about why he is in favor of whatever Putin pulls around the globe. The only thing that we know is his own sons saying before Donald Trump became president that we rely a lot on Russian funding. A lot of our deals have Russian money inside or behind them. We've never understood that there's any logical, ideological sort of platform that knits Donald Trump to Putin's autocratic ways. We know that Donald Trump really likes autocrats, had sort of a bromance with many of them when he was president. But I don't know that there's some great strategy here other than him liking people who are forceful and who do exactly what they want, the criticism be damned. And then, of course, the tip-off that his sons gave, which is that a lot of the Trump Organization deals relied on Russian financing.
Carol Leonnig, always so good to have you on the program. Thank you.